Generations of immigrants throughout the history of the United States have sacrificed their human rights for the opportunity to prosper. In the 1800s, the first wave of victims were the Chinese and Japanese. Today, the scapegoats are the Latinos. Immigrants that cross the Mexican-American border grapple through dangerous terrains, spend days without food and water, and oftentimes endure physical abuse in the hands of drug lords. As a reverend and leader of the organization No More Deaths, what breaks my heart is that our country's immigration policy, which calls for border militarization, contributes to the abuse of these immigrants. Members and supporters of No More Deaths understand that the increase of violence in Mexico as a result of the drug war impelled our government to create a military presence along the border, an effective method to use when tackling our immigration problems. Such methods only contribute to the inhumane treatment of immigrants and reinforce a stereotype that labels all immigrants crossing the border as enemies. Negative stereotypes label immigrants, like Dario Miranda, as human targets for abuse. Dario Miranda was a 26-year-old married man with 2 children. His dream to prosper in the United States quickly turned into a nightmare when Michael Elmer, a Border Patrol agent, shot him to death. Elmer failed to document and report the incident. He then threatened his partner at gunpoint to help dispose of the body. 15 hours later, Elmer's colleague reported the incident. Authorities then charged Elmer with first-degree murder. Elmer's indictment was the first time in memory that a Border Patrol agent, civilian, while on duty. After only an hour of deliberation, however, the jury came back with a verdict: acquitted. Miranda's story is one of many Border Patrol-related cases that involve violations of basic human rights. In 2011, No More Deaths reported that within a 2.5-year period, there were 30,000 incidents of abuse against immigrants while in Border Patrol custody. As American citizens with deep-rooted values in humanitarianism, we can't help but question why our legislative and judicial systems allow us to violate the basic human rights of immigrants. Instead of addressing our immigration issues by the core, our government persists in strengthening border militarization. Our government supports H.R. 152, which deploys at least 10,000 members of the National Guard to help with border control activity. Our government is also in support of H.R. 1091, which authorizes the expansion of the border. As American citizens and advocates for human rights, the last thing we need is to fight a battle against 20,000 enemies. The solution begins by having a clear understanding of the foundation and values that structure both Mexico and the United States. Both countries must also understand that the immigration problems we face might have no solution. President Barack Obama and Mexico's President Felipe Calderón should focus on discarding that win-lose mentality. Such mentality only functions as a power tool that enables one country to suppress the other. With a win-lose work in collaboration, and instead, our policies have ineffective results. Brothers and sisters, I ask you to consider where we left the principles of generosity, service, courage, and resiliency that helped guide our country through the civil rights movement. Our fight to protect the basic human rights of all people, regardless of citizenship, ought to mirror the generosity expressed through the nation in the 1960s, as Americans stood in solidarity with one another. Let us all express the same dedication as we did 50 years ago that will allow us to service the American citizens who are struggling to preserve their human rights today. Let us all express the same courage to challenge the status quo. And most importantly, let us all move forward with the same resiliency our country expressed after the civil rights movement. No More Deaths urges you to sign our petition, which calls on Presidents Obama and Calderón to engage in multilateral dialogue. No More Deaths is asking both presidents to actively and constructively address the effects border militarization has on innocent citizens. Join No More Deaths as we fight to reestablish our nation's immigration policies while preserving our American values. Thank you.